clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and 12 stars above her head. And she was pregnant and cried out in birth pains. And behold, a great red dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. Smoke ripped through his nostrils, and his teeth were wet with the saliva of hatred as he hovered, watched, and waited. His rage could hardly be contained, and his appetite was at its peak. For years he had sought to devour the woman and prevent this day. For years he had taken the form of pharaohs and giants, armies and civil wars, divisions and disease, desolations and captivities. But each time he arranged his teeth around the woman, he was prevented from bringing his mighty jaws shut. Each time she was brought to the brink of ruin, an unusual wind would blow. A wind that parted seas, paralyzed the sun, and guided a stone to the head of a giant. And sometimes rearranged the robes of the royals.
He was the king, and this was his show. He wanted everyone all over Persia to know of his glory and splendor, and all that with benevolence. For 6 months and a week they partied, indulgence. He planned endless days of royal extravagance so the people would see the historic significance of Xerxes the Great beyond all compare. He wanted everyone to stop for a stare. Oh, he needed the popular songs to declare that he was the king and this was his show. But an unseen king was there. No crown or fanfare, but he was aware. And there, in the shadows, he reigned. Now on the last day of the royal ego trip, a very merry Xerxes groped for a sip, and then summoned for Vashti his queen to come in.
Dance for the men, and by all means, show some skin.
He wanted everyone to be reminded again that he was the king, and this was his show. But to the shock of them all, Vashti said no, effectively ending her place by the throne. Women like this could not be condoned.
Such disrespect,
said his men, their hubris obscene, and they urged him to find a more acquiescent queen. And an unseen king was there. No crown or fanfare, but he was aware. And there in the shadows he reigned.
Now a trio of players emerged on the stage. The first had these eyes that would pierce any age, a beauty named Esther, the queen, all arranged. This girl from the land that could turn any page. The next was her uncle, a man of the gate, an ambitious Jew, closely tracking the fate of the unlikely star, his empress at state. The man, Mordecai, bound to be great. The last was the least, a despicable beast, who schemed to devour the Jews like a feast, descending from Agag, a line not erased, is Haman the horrid, imago effaced.
So the plot gathered steam as the beast-eyed controlled, zealous to hang Mordecai on a pole. As part of his plan, his black heart would be whole to suffocate Israel once and for all. And after conning the king, he threw dice for a date to destroy every Jew in the Persian estate. The 13th of Adar, the black date was set for extinction. He hoped that the world would forget that they ever existed or were ever a threat. In this age of empires, the 12 would regret ever crossing with Haman, Lucifer's pet.
But an unseen king was there, no crown or fanfare, but he was aware, and there in the shadows he reigned.
So this edict that reeked like smoke from the pit spread through the land like a maritime mist that looms in the air increasingly thick, dreading the day of this satanic hit. But here, when the night was darkest of all, and Mordecai's back was pressed to the wall, a spirit was stirring, a signature call to the fighters who've seen giants fall, after all. So Mordecai turned his eyes to the palace and pleaded with Esther to fight this injustice.
Intercede with the king. Leverage your access. Maybe you are queen for such a time as this.
But it wasn't as simple as batting her eyes, or flattering him with Xerxes the wise. To get what she wanted, you might be surprised that it was a death wish and never advised. To approach uninvited could spell suicide. Yes, even the queen would be risking her hide. Esther would have to set her life aside to enter and plead with the king to decide to rescue her people from mass genocide. But enter she would, and still would stand time, as nearing the throne she moved like a rhyme, and gracefully stood with an aura sublime in front of the latest in this royal line. And punishment was the last thing on his mind. Extending his scepter to this beauty so fine, he said,
Ask for whatever you wish, it's all mine. Ask for 1,000 goblets of wine, or every grape on every vine, up to half my kingdom I'll consign it all over to you, my queen so divine.
I'd just like you to come to dinner, Esther said. A banquet in honor of you I've prepared. Bring Haman and come, taste of the spread of meat and cheese, fine wine and bread. So they entered, and needless to say, were impressed. And Xerxes was moved to renew his behest for Esther to openly share her request. But she simply requested that they be her guests, again at her table after one night of rest.
They agreed, and they left, and Haman was floating. He was walking on air to the court, he was gloating, and they rose to their feet, all his subjects emoting, that even the queen in her wisdom had spoken. But one man despised all Haman's showboating. One man refused to rise in devotion. The Jew, Mordecai, dismissed the commotion. Clenching his jaw, he scorned every notion that Haman deserved this repulsive promotion.
And out of the crowd of his gullible fans, Haman was fixed on the one pair of hands that were not in the air. The hands of the man he hated the most, and he couldn't stand to wait one more day. So home Haman ran, and there with his wife concocted a plan to kill Mordecai and embarrass his brand.
Hang him high on a pole, high above the land. 50 cubits will make these gallows grand, to declare Haman has won, and Mordecai's end.
But an unseen king was there. No crown or fanfare, but he was aware, and there in the shadows he reigned. Meanwhile, at the palace, on this very night, Xerxes tossed and turned as sleep took to flight. So he called for a servant to read the highlights of his time on the throne, to bring memories to sight and sleep to his eyes before dawn came to light. As it happened, the servant read of a plot to murder the king, the one Mordecai fought and foiled to save Xerxes, who instantly sought to discover if suitable honor was brought, to honor this man for what he had wrought, this heroic Jew from a dignified lot. And just when they found that no honor was given, Haman would enter, seeking permission to murder the man of the hour of celebration. So the king queried Haman,
Man, what is your perception? How would you color a great demonstration of glory and honor, a royal declaration, for a man who is worthy of this designation? Well,
Haman said, giddy within, another ship of his had surely come in, and clearing his conceited throat, he'd begin.
I'd dress him in what only kings have been in. The robes, the crown, the rings, and then I'd bring the king's horse and the finest of men to lead this hero on a royal procession. Throughout the streets with this proclamation, behold, the man the king delights to commend. Xerxes was pleased with every suggestion, but then to Haman's complete devastation, he gave the decree for this coronation to be from the man of the Jewish nation, the man Mordecai, Haman's chief consternation, would ride on a horse led by his humiliation.
But after completing this embarrassing duty, Haman hurried to join the king and his beauty for the follow-up feast where even the foodie would be blown away by this banquet so heavenly. And so once again, the king asked the question,
What do you want, Esther? Make your petition whatever you want. You have my permission. Just get it said. Resist apprehension.
The queen would then stand, and still would stand time, as Esther revealed the unspeakable crime that was planned for her people, this villainous rhyme that was scripted by evil and dropped like a dime, disclosing that she should be first in the line to be murdered. She too would be plucked from the vine. And confusion and anger swirled the king's mind as he raced for an answer, determined to find the culprit or cause of this heinous design. Then the king raised his voice alongside of his fist.
Who is the dead man behind all of this?
And a hand started moving, too blatant to miss. 'Twas the hand of the queen, in shrewd fearlessness, pointing at Haman, the arch nemesis, and she cried, He is the source of this madness! He is the cause of all of our distress! Wicked Haman! O king, put him to the test! Look no further than his malevolence!
And the tables were turned in the blink of an eye as the king ordered Haman to be hung way up high on the gallows that he built to hang Mordecai. And the seat he once held got flipped Israelite. Yes, Mordecai donned the robes blue and white, a ring and a crown, and stood just to the right of the king. This Jewish star rose out of sight, number 2 in the world, all in one night. More tables were turned as the new VIP worked with his queen to set their people free. New legislation was dispatched to decree that the Jews were empowered by His Majesty to fight for their lives, for their liberty. And an unseen king was there, no crown or fanfare, but he was aware, and there in the shadows he reigned.
Celebrations erupted all over the kingdom, rejoicing in their improbable freedom. This uncanny nation with uncanny wisdom, here in the face of annihilation, they revel together in sweet jubilation. And the feast, it's called Purim. But more than a dance, this annual festival aims for a glance at this tale of a king and a queen, a romance. But not between them. One from the expanse, a war for a people, a place, the advance of a mission to save every nation from iniquity's trance. And as for Purim, it's named for those dice, which serve to enhance our view that this end was no matter of chance. For an unseen king was there, no crown or fanfare, but he was aware, and there, in the shadows, he reigned.
And so it was that God brought forth the Messiah. Through this nation he preserved. And the dragon, try as he might, ruthless and cunning, could never have prevented his birth. The Son of God and Son of Man has come. The one who existed before the world began would enter the world that he made, and the world would never be the same.
For an unseen king was there, no crown or fanfare, but he was aware, and there in the shadows he reigned. In the shadows he reigned until shadows he made, as he walked with a crown and a sword parade, and was hailed as a king, as a kind of charade, the king of the Jews of people he saved, when his girl became queen, and Haman got paid. But here it appears like a reversal of roles. The king of the shadows now hangs on a pole, and he bleeds out, the black heart flexes whole. It seems evil's the one laughing last afterward. But there is deep magic in Passover's glow, and after 3 days he told darkness go, crushing the head of the serpent of old. He came up from the grave, and he wants you to know that he is the king, and this is his show.